Good day everyone. So today we will be demonstrating how to add lighting to your 3D setup. So first, when you open Blender, first thing that we should always do is delete the original cube. And let's put in a new one. Yeah. So Blender already gives us, or they already prepared a light source for us to work with, and it is this one. So let's start our discussion or our demonstration with this. So this is our light, as we can see here in our collection list. This light is called a point light. It's simply a light source wherein its light goes in a radius or is emulated in a specific radius around it. So let's look at this shading here. So viewport shading natin. Another shortcut is to click on Z and you will see this. So let's go to the rendered view, which is this one. So as you can see, we can move this light by using our usual controls. We can scale it, we can rotate it, and we can move it. So in this case, let's try to move it a bit closer to our subject or to our cube. Yan. Okay. So as I've previously mentioned, the point light usually projects light around it in a circular direction. So if we move it on top of our cube, you can see that the top part is very much illuminated while the sides and everything else, it's not. But if we move it a little bit to the side, we can see that this side here now has light. Now let's introduce different mesh into this setup so that we can see how light bounces off these surfaces. So let's add a cube there, and let's add a cone, and let's add a torus. Ah, yan. So with the point light, it really is dependent on the light source, or rather the light is dependent on the location, not much on the direction, because let's see, if we will rotate it, nothing much changes. If we scale it, let's see, nothing much changes as well. It's because when it comes to lighting, if we want to change the intensity of it, we have to go to this panel, the data, or rather the object, the data properties. Now, a little tip here, or a little tidbit lang. This green icon here changes according to the selected object. So if we select out, right now we're not actively selecting something, but since the light source was our last selected object, it has this little light bulb icon here. But if we will select, let's say, a mesh, it changes. This is the symbol of a polygon. So yeah, same here. Let's click our camera. The icon also changed into a little camera. So yeah, that's just one of the tips just to show or just for you to see kung ano yung naselect ninyo. Now notice that it doesn't work if mag-drag, click and drag tayo. It only reflects what we've actively clicked on. So let's click on our light to go back here. Okay. So we were talking about the intensity. So intensity, or let's say the power, is shown here. So now we have it at 1,000 watts. So just like a real light bulb, kung how bright a light is depends on its watts. So let's try to change it to, let's say, 500, half of its current light. So yeah, nakita natin medyo nag-dim. Let's dim it further to 50. Further, let's say 100 lang. So yan. Let's move it. Let's say here's a cone. Now notice that this will project shadows. So since the cube is in front of our UV sphere here, we have a sharp shadow in this direction. Yan. Same here sa torus natin. This part, since it's at a diagonal from our light source, the shadows are in this part. Same sa cylinder natin. Now if we lower it, let's look at the UV sphere and cube. If we lower it, the shadow also moves. So try to think of it similar to a light bulb. Let's change this to 1000 so that we have a very bright source of light. Now the cube is a very simple shape, sharp edges. So of course, one at a time lang talaga show up yung edges niya. But if we look at our more rounded or smoother objects, let's add, ano na lang, ito, the subdivision surface modifier. At least medyo smooth yung, ano natin, surface. Can add more. Yan, so yan, very smooth. So here, as we can see, the location of our point light or point light source affects the shadows outside of it. So again, now we can still continue to change this. Let's put it here. Punta tayo sa light data properties. We can also change the color. So yan, gusto niyo medyo, yan, let's pick that. So similar to the different properties of light, the closer you get to a light source, magka-white talaga yan siya. So yan, we have a very white color here sa sides sa UV sphere natin, and that's because the light is right next, or the light source rather, is just right next to the model. If you move it away, so yan, unti-unti makikita natin yung color. Now notice na there's really no light hitting our cube and our cone, and that's because the light source is just not hitting it. But if we move our light a bit further across, we can see that there is a faint light now hitting the cube, and it's because it's now receiving light from at this like direction. If we move the sphere aside, so again, but let's just put it back there. Let's put this back up. Let's say here. Yan. Para at least makita natin yung mga shadows. Now you can manipulate the setting for diffuse. So ito, yan. You can also change, let's have it at 5 or mga 49. Then volume. So there are a lot of ways for you to manipulate your models, or rather manipulate your light source. You can also uncheck this, the soft fall off, but usually by default that's checked. Yan. You can also manipulate the shadows, but we'll focus on that soon. So now we can, now that we've discussed the point light, we will now look at the other sources of light. What you can do is, first we can delete this, and we can do Shift A, or here, click this drop-down menu here for add and light. So we can see point, sun, spot, and area, the different 4 types of, or rather the 4 types of light sources available in Blender. So let's click on point again. So ayan, nagbago yung settings natin kasi it's a new light source entirely. You can add more light source if you want. Let's say, okay, yeah, let's put this at 250. And I want this one to be red. Now you can duplicate this, so Shift D. And then let's just move it here. Let's change the color to, say, blue. So yeah, you can do that. You can create multiple light sources in a single project. But before, okay. So you can change the light source by adding in a new light source entirely. Like for example, let's add this little spotlight here. Or you can change an existing light source by clicking this one. Let's say you realize, okay, I'm not into the point light, I want it to be a spotlight. So you keep all of the settings that you just set, but change the type of light. So let's have it like that. Let's say I want, yan, so same with the point light, you can use our basic functions here. We can move it, we can scale it, and we can rotate it. So with scaling, you adjust this line here. Now, imagine this the spotlight as, well, a spotlight, like a lamp. So it will shine a light in a specific radius only, in a cone-like direction. Now, we can click on this line here. Kita natin tong light blue arrow, tapos may yellow na dot. So we can manually move where this spotlight is looking at. So let's say I want it here. Yan. There. Now this blue arrow here changes the angle. So how focused it is, or how wide the light is. So let's say I want it like that. Now this, we see two circles here, an outer and an inner. We can see, since if we mouse over this inner circle, it turns yellow, so we can manipulate this. So this affects how well or how blended the light is. So if you move it closer, if you look at the shadows, I think it's very visible here. So UV sphere natin, it's blending more and more. So yan, it's a very soft light. If we push it closer to this edge, yan, it's a very harsh light now. Now let's rotate it. Let's say I want it there. Or let's say you want the center to be the cube. You just want to move our light around. We can click on this drop-down menu here, the transform pivot point. And rather than the median point, which is the default, let's set it to the 3D cursor. The 3D cursor is this cursor right here. You can manipulate it by clicking on this tool and then clicking anywhere on the world that you want it as the center. But for this case, I'm fine with that. It usually is at the 0, 0, or the center, median, ano ba yung term na gusto niyo. So let's click on our light again. And let's click on 3D cursor. Now, if you will rotate it, okay, it's not exactly perfect na circle, but we can still adjust that. Yan. So, let's say mga ganyan. Okay, now let's try again. 3D cursor. Okay, wrong. Sorry. Yan. Okay, works somewhat. Yan. Okay, let's have it here na lang. So as you can see from the angle of the spotlight, natamaan yung torus natin, so it has light. But if we will adjust, let's set the median point again. Yan. So if we will adjust this, okay. Yan. So if you will adjust this radius here, it will affect how large the spotlight is, so makikita yung ibang objects or not. So I guess that's it's fairly simple thing to grasp. Now let's add a plane pala underneath para may floor tayo. Yan. Let's go to solid view para makita natin lahat. Let's have the torus float. I think everything else, yeah, I'm fine with them being on the surface. Okay. So this is what it would look like sa solid view. You really won't see any of the light simulation. Makikita lang natin sa rendered. Iba yung makikita natin sa material preview, iba din sa wireframe. So yeah, let's just go to rendered. So according to physics lang yun, like, okay, yan. So same with the point light, we can change the colors. Let's say, yan. We can also darken the colors if you want. Like medyo faint lang siya na color, okay lang. Or if you want it really bright, go ahead. Let's have it. Actually, ito, let's say, yan. So we can manipulate this. Let's say, ganyan. You want one light there. Let's duplicate that. You want the other light here where you want it to be like a yellow or something. Yan. So a spotlight focuses on a very specific area according to the radius. In contrast to the point light, let's convert this into a point light, wherein it lights up everything within its radius. So let's compare. This is a point light and this is a spotlight. Point and spot. Now the spotlight, you can also change its shape. This is the numerical equivalent lang of manipulating this arrow. Same here with the blend. Ayan. Now so that's the spotlight, that's the point light. Next, let's discuss area light. So an area light, yan. An area light is a soft light that projects the light according to a certain shape and its direction. So for this case, medyo maliit yung ano natin. Let's change it back to the median point. And let's increase the shape. So yan. Now, imagine area light as light from your TV screen or light from your cell phone. So it will only light up what is in front and not what is behind it. So let's say we have it facing the cube. So it's not lighting up this area. Let's move it a bit forward para mas makita natin yung contrast. Ito. So hindi na natin makita yung cone at the back. Let's delete this point light para wala tayong ibang distractions. Let's say ganyan. So the area light is kind of similar to the spotlight, wherein it will not light up things outside of its set radius. In this case, kung ano nasa harap ng area light, that is what will be illuminated. Behind it, kapag if your object is behind the area light source, then it will not be lit up. Let's bring a spotlight, or rather a point light. Let's have this to be, say, 1000. Yan. So it lights up everything. Let's dim it a bit. Yan. Let's have it blue, or yeah, let's just have it as white. Yan. Let's see. Yan. And then for our area light, let's increase the intensity to 500. And let's set it to something harsher. Let's say, yan, red. So anything that is hit with a color red is anything that's in front of the area light. So kita natin, yung cone natin hindi nag-red kasi nasa likod siya ng area light. Now, if we move it more, yan. Just a quick note, the orientation at which you're looking at your screen, or you're looking at your scene rather, defines the area or the direction sa area light natin. For example, tanggalin ko ito. Gawa out tayo ng bagong area light. Scale it up kasi hindi ko makita. Let's just cut that. So, yan. Medyo iba yung direction ng area light natin. Ito. Let's say yan. I guess it's a bit self-explanatory. You can use the area light for soft light. Kasi kung tignan natin yung settings niya, it really doesn't have sharp edges. It really is mostly used for the ambient light ba, or yung soft light. So yan, you can use an area light for that if you want soft edges. Even if we push it to 1000, yan, the lighting, the way it falls off is still very soft. So now that we've discussed area light, we've discussed point light, the next is the sun. So the sunlight is unique in a sense that it will light up everything. It does not have a limit, or rather it does not have a set radius. It will light up everything if it is unseen. This is already the strength no 1. How much more if we push it to 10? Yan, already very bright. What does change with the sunlight is its direction. So now it's just pointing straight down. So the shadows, as we can see from the torus, the shadow is just going straight down. But if we will manipulate the direction, let's rotate it, it will change the general light source, or like, yan. Regardless of its placement along the scene, if it is facing at a certain direction, all of the shadows will follow it. Yan. Let's rotate it. Let's see. Even if we do it like this, so yan, it's facing upwards. We don't really see anything, but if we look down, our plane is very much lightened up. Yan. So you can also change the color here. Let's say, let's have it this color. Let's change the strength to, yeah, let's say it's a weird color. Let's change it something like that. So yan, it's a general light, kumbaga. It's not fixed to a certain light source. It lights up the entire scene. Now we can combine multiple light sources. So yan, let's put a point light somewhere here. Let's increase its intensity or power to 500. Let's say, kulay natin dyan green. Gawa tayo ng spotlight. Let's move it up here. Let's color it a blue and increase it to 50 ba? Medyo weak pa. Let's try 500 as well. Yan. Now, as you can see, medyo hindi natin makikita rather yung kulay blue. And it's because nag-contrast ito, or rather nag-away yung light from the point light at spotlight. So yan. Let's put the green, the source of the color green here na lang on top of our cylinder. So dyan, mas makikita na natin ang blue sa spotlight. So we can still change this. Pwede natin to ipalapit. Kasi remember, this is a source of light. So yan. Kung these two lines here, these set the radius, or rather the circumference, rather, of your spotlight. So yan, the further it goes, the more light is shown. Set it to 1,000. Yan. So let's rotate it lang. Parties na tayo gamay, ano here, composition, char. So yan. Now last, the area light. Let's try to add all 4 sources of light here. Let's add it here sa my, let's add it sa my torus na lang. Rotating it. Let's drag it down. Yan. So it really is a very soft source of light. We can also change the shape. Ito, technically, naka-rectangle na siya. You can change it into a disc. You can also change it into an ellipse. But since I've already manually manipulated it, medyo nagka-wonky yung shape niya. Let's have it at 600. Okay, medyo bright na yung 600. Kung tingnan natin, medyo soft na yung lighting ng torus natin compared sa kung wala yung area light. Tingnan natin. Yan. Let's move it to 300 lang. Yan. So if you want to soften up the shadows, add area light. Okay, I think we can work with an eclipse, rather a square here. Kusog po gid kay siya. 200. And let's have it like, I don't know, this green here, light blue yan. You can still change these settings. So ito, yan, very soft na light by setting the diffuse at 0. Let's try to set it like 10. Yan. So yeah, now we have light in our setup. It's a very generic one, not much going on. Let's change this. Of course, don't forget to save. Just saving it here. So now that we have light, to fully see how our setup would look like with the lights on, we have to render it. And we can see the render view by looking at this icon here. Itong parang likod ng camera, like yung viewport ng camera. Now, by default, it is set to Eevee. It is recommended to have Eevee as your default render cycle, or yan, render engine rather, because it's a real-time render engine. Kung anong gawin mo, lalabas agad. Tapos, it doesn't really eat much of your processing. So, I mean, as of now, medyo nangano na yung laptop ko, nanginit na, mainit na yung air na binubuga ng fans niya, but anyhow. If you really want photorealistic outputs or renders, we can work with cycles. Now, this is what would happen. Yan. If you notice, medyo may graining, ano ito, details, it's because, again, tapos na yung pag-render. Every time you change the perspective, mag-green siya kasi nag-actively render out ang Blender using the Cycles render engine. Tapos kita natin dito, render done, pero oops, baguhin natin yung perspective. Gusto ko makita yung red. So yan, balik. 0. Okay, adjust natin, balik 0. Adjust naman natin, balik 0. So yan, mainit na talaga yung laptop ko. But that's fine. Yan. Okay, let's say medyo harsh yung light para sa spotlight. Gusto ko medyo mag-blur pa konti. So I can adjust this. So medyo mahirap makita yung results with cycles on. If you have any changes to do, better to do it at sa Eevee. Ayan. It's a bit nicer, a bit kinder to your computer. Ayan. Now let's go to cycles. Ayan. Now let's just wait for it to finish rendering. Ayan. So you can set it to GPU, CPU, if anything. It is very much encouraged or preferred if sa GPU kayo mag-compute. Kawawa naman yung CPU ninyo, if ever. So yan, you can change this, you can uncheck this, but as much as possible, let's just keep it there. Yan. This is for animation na. Yes, you can bake things here. So this will be discussed in 3D animation, but at least you know it is here in your render panel. So yan, we can actually still continue to edit it even while in this render viewport. Let's click, let's say I want to change this into a very, yan. Tapos the point light, I want it to be say violet. And I want to move it a bit high up. Naglag. Yan. Medyo nagkakontra yung light sources natin. And this is where your lessons in digital photography would come into play or would be applied. If you guys would remember the 3 light setup or yung at least the very bare minimum 3 light setup, you might use it here. So yung may key light tayo, fill light, and ganyan. So I guess that would be all for lighting. But before we move on, okay, first let's go to EV. Now there is another source of light that is not among these four, and it is called the HDRI. So first, let's remove these lights. Let's select those, select this. Ayan. So wala na tayong light. Now, what we can do is, okay, first, let's save. Punta tayo here sa world. Now, usually, naka-uncheck itong use nodes. So, check use nodes. Now, let's click on this one, color. Let's click on the yellow dot. Napunta tayo dito sa textures and go to environment texture. So, yan. If you see a very vibrant pink or a very vibrant green, it usually states or usually denotes na may material na dapat nakalagay dito pero hindi nalagyan ng material. So let's put a material. So let's open an image here. Punta tayo sa download. So in my case, I have already downloaded a few HDRIs, one of them being this one, Cobble Street Night. Now what HDRIs do is that whatever lighting is in your background, they will reflect it down here in your model. Now we can still manipulate, like for example, ito talaga yung default kasi ng HDRI. We can still continue to adjust it. Punta tayo dito sa here, sa shading. Punta tayo sa world. So yan. Punta lang tayo dito sa rendered view natin para makita natin yung HDRI. So we can adjust this. So we can adjust the strength of the color. Ito, just click and drag lang. Move my mouse left to right. We can also adjust this one here. You can move it to cycles. Pero yan, maglalag kasi wala tayong light source. So usually naka-EV lang talaga yan. Yan. Now, you can find HDRIs online. Personally, I would recommend Polyhaven. Let's open it up muna. Let's open a new. So here, Polyhaven. Now, everyone has their own source. Usually, I get mine here. So, as of now, let's look at HDRIs and textures muna. Itong models na ito, only use this once you start 3D animation kasi at this point, we're still learning how to make our own unique models. So here, may textures, HDRIs, dito tayo. Now, all of these are free. So let's say, how about this? Symmetrical Gardens. At least may blue at green tayo. Now, if you want to download this, just usually naka-default 4K ito. You don't actually need that. Unless you're really going for the details here, na gusto nyo talaga makita yung plants and everything, it's fine if we'll just go with 2K or even 1K. We're just after the color. Now make sure it's in HDR, not EXR. And let's download it. So yan, na-download na yung Symmetrical Garden natin. Now let's look for that one here. So nandito na tayo. Actually, lahat na pinuntahan ko dito sa shading natin, we can still find it here. Yan. But anyhow, so let's change it. Open image ulit. Nandito sa downloads, typing down SYM for the Symmetrical Garden, clicking it, opening image, and yan. Ngayon, nag-iba. Let's set the strength to 1. So as we can see, there is a very faint green with a really bright sky on top, so medyo blue. Now we can actually enclose this in a room. So in this case, let's add a UV sphere. Let's scale it up. Tingnan natin sa loob, nag-reflect pa rin konti yung light natin. Okay, palakihin pa natin yung medyo nag-reflect pa rin yung light. Green pa rin sa baba, medyo blue pa rin sa taas. Now, if you have worked with Maya, you would recognize na using a UV sphere or creating a UV sphere first is usually one of the more typical ways of adding this HDRI. Usually, what you would do is click on the material, diba yung material, sorry. Ito, material, go tayo new, tapos for the base color, we can add environment texture, tapos dito tayo mag-add sa HDRI natin. You can actually do that. See, nasa loob na yung material natin. But it's really up to you. You can either use it here or you can use this here. Actually, we can also, let's just add a subdivision, surface modifier per smooth siya. Yan. I'm fine with that. So that is all for the basics in setting up lighting in your 3D model. Just make sure that you won't be abusing your laptop that much. For the past few minutes, my laptop has been churning out hot air. So give your laptop time to rest. Understand the limitations of your laptop if you or your other devices. If you know that your laptop can't handle this much light in a certain setup, then don't try to push it. Always save. And yan. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to ask during our class sessions or message me in Teams. So don't forget, we have an activity, which is to create a new apartment. Don't use your M1 summative because we'll be using that for a future project. So that would be all. Thank you, everyone, and good luck.